Hey guys, I'm back with another candle review, and this time around it's for the 14.5 ounce 3-wick red, white, and blue cake candle from Bath & Body Works, part of that Summer Vibes collection of candles. I know it's been a while since this candle has been out, but I really was enjoying it, and I just still wanted to do a standalone review on it, and I feel like the stock on this one is rather limited, so I don't know how much longer it's going to be around, that I just kind of wanted to get my thoughts on here, because I did actually really like this one enough to buy a second one of it, which I rarely do these days, but I figured since most of the candles in this collection were new, there's really no guarantee that any of these are going to return again, and I feel like with the limited stock that there's available of these, kind of like, let me just get a backup of this one just in case, because I did really enjoy it. So the notes on this one read: red raspberries, ripe blueberries, whipped vanilla cream, and soft white cake. So this really smells like multiple BBW candles just merged into one. And the breakdown kind of is that it smells a whole lot like blueberry pie first. You get that same like crusty, flaky, sort of brown sugar type of pie crust note is definitely in here, but diluted much more because there's so much more of that whipped vanilla cream and soft white cake note that it kind of takes that sort of like a strong edge that the blueberry pie crust note has, but still traces of it is definitely in there. Mixed that with that same tart, juicy, like blueberry type of fragrance, kind of like a blueberry Pop-Tart filling type of fragrance is what you get from it. So you most certainly get the blueberries in here that's very reminiscent of the blueberry pie fragrance. It's also very reminiscent of Iced Cranberry Scone, which is the same as Sweet Cranberry Pie, which is also very similar to Blueberry Pie, that has maybe a slight more of a berry tartness to it, that could, I guess, be attributed to like being cranberries or raspberries, but a slightly more even tart, juicy berry note is also added in here. So a little bit of that is in here as well. I also get quite a bit like a cherry fragrance. It comes off as like a cherry berry fragrance because it is kind of so tart and juicy. I get a lot of the cherry note from like the sweet cherry pie that we've had before, or the sugared cherry crisp fragrance that's also been out before. Pretty much the same thing. They all have that similar crust note mixed with like a cherry, cranberry, or a blueberry. So you can see they're all very similar fragrances. So I definitely get that blueberry in there. A little bit of like a tart berry that's either like a cranberry or a raspberry, and then the same with like a cherry note in there as well. So all those like pie fragrances that we know and love is definitely mixed in here as like a berry blend is most certainly in here. And then what you do is you mix quite a bit of like the sprinkled birthday cake type of creamy whipped cream and soft white cake note is listed in here. So you could imagine there's definitely a little bit of like a sprinkled birthday cake vibe in here as well. And also, if you recall the cherry cheesecake or the frosted cake pop fragrance that's been out a few years ago, that was also like a cherry plus a creamy cake note in there, so kind of reminds me of that too. So long story short, it's basically like blueberry pie mixed with a little bit of a like raspberry cranberry plus cherry blend in there as well, and then a nice juicy whipped cream and soft white cake note is most certainly in there that like kind of lends itself from the sprinkled birthday cake. So kind of like they took blueberry pie and then mixed sprinkled birthday cake in there and called it a day. It's almost like a berry trifle type of fragrance is basically what it is. Like they mashed all the blueberries, including even like the slight like crusty fragrance, and then like mixed it with heaps of like cake and whipped cream, and that's what red, white, and blue cake smells like. So it's kind of like they just merged all those awesome BBW bakery fragrances into one, and that's what red, white, and blue cake is, and I really enjoy that because it's kind of like I can get blueberry pie without getting that super. Sometimes blueberry pie can almost get like overly buttery and overly crusty and super heavy on that brown sugar note. That's a little bit too much. It's kind of like cloying and just like suffocating at times. That the addition of that like whipped cream and the cake note in this really like make it a little bit more creamy and cooler, and just a little bit more palatable and a little bit just more delicious, and I really enjoy that. So it's kind of like just a different take on all those pie fragrances that we know and love from BBW. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think that's all there is to say about this fragrance. Let me go into the performance. So this one's like nearing completion. It's almost down to the wick clips. Kind of like a very bumpy burn on this one. Like sometimes it'll burn very hot and vicious, especially at the beginning, but then by the mid-range point it did get kind of slower, but not enough to dud it out. But you can see that the flames are kind of getting small now and the wicks are just very puny at this point, but it's still pulling out, so I just kind of let it go. It's kind of nice because it doesn't soot and you can just kind of like have it going for a while without worrying about it, like, you know, putting soot all over the place or getting too hot. So at this point it's fine, but just know in the first half it had a more vicious burn that you had to trim the wicks on, but then on the second half I didn't have to trim the wicks at all, but it's not dudding out either. As for the throw, like medium to medium plus, I would say when it was at full capacity, maybe like a good like 7. It was still present. It isn't a super heavy or strong fragrance because that cake creamy note definitely makes it a little bit more mellow, but still present and still travels like up to like a 6 or a 7. But then when it's like kind of like dwindling down to what it's been for like the past few burns, more down to just like a 5 to a 6. So anywhere from a medium to medium plus, depending on where the burn is. But other than that, like the throw was still satisfactory enough for me to repurchase it, so there's that. Overall, I really enjoy this fragrance. If you like blueberry pie or the iced cranberry scone or the sweet cranberry pie or the sweet cherry pie, but also like sprinkle birthday cake, then definitely check this out. It's kind of like a combination of all those. Don't let the cold sniff on this one deter you, because on cold, this one did have a weird kind of like rancid, sour, spoiled smell to it, but it totally went by the wayside when you go to burn it, and it did really liven up and get really scrumptious and delicious. So I wouldn't let that weird like sourness on cold deter you from buying this candle, because at first I was really turned off by it, but once you go to burn it, it's super delicious and awesome. So we're good to go there. So yeah, 2 thumbs up on this one, and I'm really enjoying it. So thanks so much for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.